You think you know American history? You know, the powdered wigs, the solemn declarations, all the stuff you learned in school. Well, let me tell you, the real story is so much weirder. Beneath the surface, it's packed with these bizarre, totally unbelievable, and frankly fascinating tales. So, you ready to dive into the good stuff? So what do they have in common? Well, believe it or not, every single one is a completely true story. They're all part of this forgotten, kind of freaky, but absolutely fascinating side of the United States. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover in this explainer. We're digging up some of the weirdest chapters in American history.
All right, let's kick things off with some of the country's most ambitious projects. I mean, these were like the moonshots of their time, right? Just these huge, bold experiments that, well, let's just say they didn't exactly go according to plan.
Okay, get this. Back in the 1850s, the US Army is staring at the vast deserts of the American Southwest, and they have this brilliant idea, or what they thought was a brilliant idea. You know what we need? Camels. Seriously. The whole plan was to create a full-on camel corps to haul supplies through that brutal terrain, an idea pushed by the Secretary of War at the time, Jefferson Davis. And you know, when you look at it on paper, it makes total sense. A single camel could carry more than double what a mule could. It could go for days without water. It was practically built for the job. So why aren't there camels patrolling the border today? What went wrong? Well, here's the thing. There's a huge difference between a good idea and a practical one. The soldiers, they absolutely hated these things. For one, they smelled just awful. They had this disgusting habit of spitting their half-digested cud on anyone who tried to discipline them. And well, let's just say you didn't want to be standing behind one unexpectedly. The whole experiment was just quietly swept under the rug. But that big idea thinking didn't just stop with animals. As we roll into the 20th century, the focus shifts. We go from beasts of burden to these incredible feats of modern engineering. Think about it. Cities like New York and Boston are exploding in size, and so is the amount of mail. The solution, something straight out of science fiction for the time. A massive network of pneumatic tubes running right under the streets. They'd pack these canisters full of letters and then, whoosh, blast them across town with compressed air. We're talking speeds up to 30 miles an hour. It was basically the internet of its day. Okay, so it wasn't just the projects that were extreme. The country itself, the very land, is a place of wild contrasts. We're gonna look at some geographical facts that'll mess with your head, and then one of the absolute strangest disasters you've ever heard of. All right, here's a fun fact that's gonna break your mental map of the world. Which state is closer to Africa, Florida or Maine? It's gotta be Florida, right? Nope. Because of the curvature of the Earth, the easternmost tip of Maine is actually closer to the African continent than Miami is. Wild, isn't it? And if you want to see extremes packed together, just look at California. You can be standing on top of Mount Whitney, the highest point in the continental US, and just a short drive away, only 85 miles, you can be in Death Valley, the lowest, driest, and hottest place in all of North America. It's just incredible. But you know, the biggest dangers aren't always from nature. Sometimes they're man-made. And in 1919, Boston was hit by a catastrophe that honestly sounds like a joke, like something out of a cartoon. But I promise you, the reality was absolutely terrifying. So picture this. It's a winter day, just after lunch. A gigantic storage tank holding over 2 million gallons of molasses just gives way. It bursts. And a 25-foot tall wave of thick brown goo comes roaring through the streets at 35 miles an hour. It obliterated buildings, swept away horses, people, everything. The speed alone was horrifying, but what came next was the real nightmare. So why was this so deadly? It all comes down to a bit of weird science. Molasses is what's called a non-Newtonian fluid. All that means is, the more you struggle against it, the thicker and more solid it becomes. So people who were caught in it couldn't just swim out. The more they struggled, the more it was like being trapped in quicksand that was actively hardening all around them. There was no escape. And the cleanup? Oh man, it was a complete nightmare. For months, the entire city of Boston was sticky. Literally sticky. People tracked it everywhere, into their homes, onto the trolleys. Every doorknob was tacky. And that sweet, sickening smell just hung in the air. The Boston harbor actually stayed brown all the way until summer.
Okay, so from the literally sticky to the legally sticky, I guess, let's switch gears and look at some of the absolute weirdest laws that are still somehow on the books today. You gotta love a law that doesn't mess around. In Arizona, they have something officially called the Stupid Motorist Law. I'm not kidding. It's for people who decide to ignore all the warning signs and drive their car right into a flooded area. If you do that and you need to be rescued, guess what? You're paying for it. It's so blunt, it's perfect. Then you've got Kentucky, where an old law requires every citizen to take a bath at least once a year. Just once. Yeah, it's obviously a leftover from a time when public hygiene wasn't exactly top of mind for everyone, but it's a funny little reminder of how much things have changed. And then there's this one from Massachusetts. Get ready for it. It is illegal to frighten a pigeon. Yes, a pigeon. Now, it's part of a bigger animal cruelty law, but the way it's written is just so delightfully weird. So next time you're in Boston, walk calmly, don't startle the pigeons. All right, for our last stop, let's talk about the presidents themselves. Because it turns out that behind all the politics and the fancy speeches, these leaders were, well, they were just as weird as the rest of us. They had some really strange habits and amazing skills you just don't hear about. Take Andrew Jackson. We all know he had a bit of a temper, but how much of a temper? We're talking about a guy who is believed to have fought in over 100 duels in his lifetime. 100! Most of them were to defend his honor or his wife's honor. It just shows you what a different, rougher world he came from. Okay, this next one is just a mind-blowing party trick. President James A. Garfield could supposedly write in ancient Greek with one hand, while at the exact same time writing in Latin with his other hand. I mean, can you even imagine? That's just an insane level of talent. And what about good old Abe Lincoln? We picture him as this serious, somber figure, but in his younger days, he was a champion wrestler. And I mean a champion. His record was something like 300 wins and only one single loss. On top of that, he played the violin, he absolutely loved cats, and he was great at mimicking people's voices. It just goes to show you there's always more to the story. So from army camels to waves of molasses, I think it's pretty clear that history is anything but boring, right? These stories are all around us. They're a reminder that the world is just full of these weird, amazing details that are just waiting for someone to find them again. Which leaves you with one question. What kind of forgotten history is hiding in plain sight, right where you live?